The next session is about future-proofing dairy herds for a changing world and emerging trends in scientific research. Dr. Thuy Nguyen helped develop the world's first heat tolerance breeding value and is passionate about ensuring that research is communicated and adopted. As stakeholder relations manager, she is responsible for ensuring that the data provided to DataGene are returned in a form that is understandable and decision-ready. For reasons that will soon become obvious, I'll be handing the panel over to Thuy to introduce. All I can say is that these panellists are some of the most intelligent, exciting and attractive scientists in the room. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Thuy Nguyen with Hot But Cool, Research for a Future-Proof Dairy Industry.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Fazel, you can have this one.
Just this one.
Yeah. And it's my pleasure to lead this panel of discussion where we will dive into some pressing challenges that dairy farming is facing today. Beating the heat, reduce climate impact, and at the same time boosting profitability, all without missing a beat. And the dairy industry is now at the crossroads. I believe that the solutions lie in innovation, adaptability, and resilience. Today, we are lucky, joined by a stellar lineup of emerging scientists who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So Laura Jensen, the first from my left, a PhD student from La Trobe University, based at Abacusbio in Bandura. She will bring her expertise on the cutting-edge technologies that she used to improve heat tolerance for dairy cattle. In the middle, you see Fazel Almasi, research scientist at Agriculture Victoria Research, also based at Abacusbio in Bandura, bring insights into ways and approaches to measure methane and how that contributes to the development of a methane breeding value. And Cheng Ooi, I don't need to introduce. She now put on her Abacusbio hat on and take her 25 hat off. She will round out our panel with a sharp focus on international, practical and impactful solutions. So please welcome me, join me in welcoming Laura, Fazel, and Cheng. Together, the panel will explore how high-tech technologies in genomics and automatic data recording will transform our industry. So, Laura, can I start with you first? Please, in a few sentences, tell us who you are, the research that you're diving into, and what fires you up to build a career in the dairy industry, and also why this work is important to you. Thank you. And then Fazel and Cheng.
Thank you, Thuy. So, as you can tell from my accent, I'm not originally from Australia. I started on a dairy farm in the US and mating my own cows with my dad from a young age when my bull picking choices weren't maybe the best, did give me a lot of interest in genetics. And so I did my master's at the University of Florida, and I was lucky enough to have Jenny Price on my committee with me and looked at how the Australian breeding value for heat tolerance could work in the US on dairy farms there. And that opportunity to work there, plus all the implementation of these new technologies, gave me the opportunity to come here for my PhD, which is focused on developing novel phenotypes for heat tolerance using sensor technologies. And I think this is a really exciting area because Australia is really exciting being the first place to implement a breeding value for heat tolerance. But it is linked to reduction in milk yield. And so I'm hoping by using sensors we can find more traits that are less related to milk yield, like body temperature, panting, sweating, behavioral traits, and with those, hopefully update the breeding value so that you can select for both heat tolerance and milk production and not have them be as antagonism. as to why I'm really excited to be joining this industry, I did an internship with the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding, where I worked on implementing validation for the Jersey health traits in the US. And when those went live in April 2020, that was really exciting for me. That work I had done directly went back to farmers. I like the idea that things I'm doing in research, which excites me and interests me, goes back to my parents or friends who are in the industry.
So actually, I did animal nutrition 10, 12 years ago. That time I was calling myself a nutritionist and working for a feed additive company. Then when I moved to Australia 8 years ago, I did a PhD, and I was more interested in genetics. So I worked on accelerometer sensors and phenotyping merino sheep for grazing, rumination, walking, and using those genetic parameters. So I got much more expertise in genetics. Now, I don't know, I'm a nutritionist or geneticist, I'm somewhere in between. But I know I have a good understanding of both. And right now I'm working as part of Green Cow project. We are working on phenotyping in a larger scale for methane emission. And that's, yeah.
EJ? So yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, but 2 years ago, you asked me, well, why am I so excited for working for the Australian dairy industry? But 2 years ago, I finished my PhD, and I was like, right, that's 10 years in the Australian dairy industry. It's time to leave and broaden my horizons and go somewhere else. So 2 years ago, I left Australia, and I started working for Abacusbio. So we're a global consulting firm. We've got offices in the UK, Canada. We've just started one in Australia, but our head office is in Dunedin on the South Island, so it makes it really, really hard and expensive to actually visit any of our clients from there. But anyway, that's where I'm sort of based at the moment. My personal specialty is in, well, so I did do some work with kiwi fruit and beef and sheep and insects, and then I kind of just realised that actually I really love the dairy industry. There's just so much data in dairy, and it's just, you guys are so far ahead. I'm not explaining basic concepts to dairy farmers. We are doing really cool things in the industry, and part of that's because we have amazing access to data. And like, as a data nerd, as many people in this room are, it's really exciting to be as part of this. So mostly what I do at Abacus is about genetic evaluations and validation, so proving that genetics is working and then telling people that it works and how well it's working. But Abacus as a whole in the dairy industry, we do a lot of work on trying to understand how genetic solutions and technologies are working, which ones to invest in, and how they can be used to try and solve some of the issues that we're facing across the world, like methane and the beef on dairy space and sustainability. So yeah, that's what we do.
That's really cool. So now let's get into tech. Could you please name 1 to 2 cutting-edge technologies that you are using in your work?
Yeah.
And there are 2 more parts of the question.
Sorry.
And what excites you about their potential? And of course, there's nothing that's without challenges. Could you also tell us one big challenge that you are tackling with them?
Yeah. So I have the excitement of working on 2 different continents for my PhD. I'm working with a company in North America, which unfortunately for them, they don't want me to talk about, so they don't get free promotion at an event like this, but you can trust me that it looks really exciting whenever they'll let me talk about it. And then for my current chapter that I'm working on in my PhD, I'm using SmackTech sensors, which are an internal rumen sensor. And they're currently in, I think, about 25 herds in Australia, mainly in Victoria and New South Wales. And I think from what I've heard from the farms I've talked to, as well as the company, is that people are really excited about the accuracy of the internal rumen temperature and helping them identify health traits earlier. And for my research, I'm also interested in the internal rumen temperature, but not so much on the health trait front, but for identifying which cows are more heat tolerant. And based on some research I did with rectal and vaginal temperature in my master's degree, I'm really keen to see how using something that's as consistent as room and temperature and that we get across multiple events is very exciting. Especially because now I can ask for data to pull data from farm computers instead of saying, do you mind if I come to your farm for 2 weeks and measure thousands of rectal temperatures and try not to get under your feet? So I think it's a great opportunity for improving a lot of things in phenotypes that are harder to measure, both from a researcher standpoint, but also from a farmer standpoint. And I know Jeff talked earlier about a lot of technologies that they're testing out, but I'm more focused on if we can use technologies that farmers have already implemented and continue to add value for that investment that they've already made. Some of the challenges I faced, I know my hair is a different color, but last year at ADC, I was asking farmers to help with if they had collars or ear tags, and what I'm realizing is I'm running into the data silo problem that everyone runs into, and getting the tech companies to work with me and give me the data is a lot more challenging than I expected, or a lot more lawyers involved than I had planned for my PhD. And so the nice thing about Smack Tech and some other companies out there is they're part of the IDDN network, and they're very open to sharing data with researchers as well as companies looking to improve the dairy industry.
Great, thank you. Fazel?
So as part of Green Cow project, we need to phenotype over 10,000 cows for methane emission to get the reliability about 0.3. And using the current method, which are respiration chambers and SF6, they are gold standard method, but they are impractical in a larger scale. So we need cheaper method, which is sniffers. And it's been using in European countries for the last 4 or 5 years. And we recently started using them at Ellenbank Smart Farm. So when the cows enter to the dairy, we have one in each feed bin, and when the cows are being milked, it measures methane at the same time. I'll show you a short video, then I'll explain more. So you can see in the feed bin, when the cow is eating, it also is under that cover. So we have one of these sensors on each feed bin, and we are facing a lot of challenges. First, these sensors are electrode heated sensors, which means when the cow exhales, there is a methane in the air, and it causes some electrical resistance, and that electrical resistance shifted voltage, and that makes reading a methane. It depends on the concentration of the methane in the air. So we have a few challenges, like the first big challenge is matching the data. Imagine these sensors is reading methane and it's totally on a different server, and we don't know it belongs to which cow. So we need to find the data belongs to which cow based on the milking data. So matching based on the farm setting could be different, and in Ellenbank, I'm using based on the order of the cows, but of course it's not 100% accurate, but we are doing our best to find the data exactly it's going for which cow. And the other challenge we have is the head proximity. So for example, in the video you can see it really depends on how the head is close to the sensor. Methane is very light and it goes up very quickly. So we should have, like if we have a head proximity of the kind of head proximity sensors, then we know exactly if it was a burp or the head might be too far from the sensor. So these are the current challenges we are facing right now. And yes.
So this sensor is widely used internationally?
So these sensors are made from a local company. It's named Arcoflex. They are based in Melbourne. And currently, that's the only sniffers we have in Australia. And it's doing very well, but still it requires more validation. We are validating these sensors against SF6, and we are hoping to validate them by mid of this year, hopefully.
Cheng.
Yeah, I'm getting some empathy for the other speakers now because I can see the clock ticking down and I'm like, oh my God, this is super stressful. Okay, cool. Well, I won't talk too long because I'm not an expert in this technology, but I think many of you, are probably excited by the possibility of artificial intelligence. So the way I use AI in my work, I could be running 4 different projects of 7 different areas of work, and I have to be sort of a generalist in all of these areas, but also a specialist at the same time. And I genuinely have an interest in things like designing shiny dashboards and doing data analysis and mixed effect modeling, but also facilitating workshops and doing strategic thinking. And I feel like ChatGPT, which is my AI of choice, is like putting on a little exoskeleton. So it just helps me do my job, but I do it faster, quicker, and with more information at my fingertips than I would just on my own. So I do use ChatGPT in my work. I think one of the biggest challenges with ChatGPT is privacy. So making sure that I don't put sensitive information into ChatGPT while still being able to use it effectively. And I think the second major challenge is making sure that you fact check the work. So not just running with hallucinations and not using my own sense of what's right and wrong and just throwing stuff out there. And I worry about that because I can do a lot more work without relying on as many junior people to do what I do. But I got to where I am and I learnt what I learnt by being that junior person and doing that grunt work. So I sort of wonder what the future looks like for this space. But at the same time, I'm also using it and finding it really helpful.
You use only ChatGPT, any other platforms, any
I've also
advice?
used Claude AI for, I find that the writing style is better. I feel like the tone's nicer, but I am enjoying building my own custom GPTs based on feeding information specifically through projects. So I'm liking that aspect of ChatGPT.
Great, thank you, Cheng. Now look into the future. What technologies do you think are going to shape the dairy research in the next 10 to 20 years? Laura, your take and your thought. And Cheng, how that might play out internationally through Abacusbio's lens. Start with you, Laura.
Okay. It's really handy that Dr. Jeff talked first and had all the videos and pictures of all these different technologies they have on their farm. For me, I'm very excited about the camera vision and the machine learning and AI that's involved in identifying body condition score, locomotion, maybe eventually getting to a point where they can measure some of the conformation traits that are easier to measure, and you can have more than one record of things, and hopefully being implemented at the farm level for helping them make decisions, but again, giving us access to phenotypes that are more difficult to measure, and then we can use that, and traits that would be really useful if we could have more than one measurement. It's really unfair to ask farmers to walk down a line and say, this cow's a 3.5 and this one's a 4.5, once a week. No one has time for that, and implementing things like this will hopefully make everyone's life better.
That's cool. Fazel, your take?
Yeah. I love to make things simple. So I really enjoyed Jeff's talk. You can see we've got a lot of different sensors for rumination, for methane, from many different things. And I think in the future we will have less sensors. For example, could be just 1 or 2 sensors measuring all these phenotyping. And but this is too much for a farmer. So I think from my own perspective, a farmer doesn't need to know this cow number 10 ruminated 2 hours or 3 hours. The farmer needs very high accuracy if this cow in the next 7 days has a very high potential of, for example, mastitis or lameness. So this is very important. It should be very simple for the farmers to use it, and of course much more cheaper. I think with the introduction of AI in the last 2-3 years, everything is speeding up much more than before. So Jeff showed in the last 20 years, everything, the technology developed very quickly, but I think in the next 20 years, it's going to be much more quicker, and AI helps a lot to do things much more simpler and even cheaper, and more accessible to everybody.
Cool. So Fazel just stole my AI topic, so I'm just going to come up with a new one. So Abacus, we don't actually have associated laboratories. We don't do lab work, we do data work. So thank you for all the lab people out there, we really appreciate it. But one thing that I've been involved in is we do a lot of sort of technology assessments. We try and help people figure out what technologies to invest in to achieve a certain outcome or to understand how good that technology has to be in order to make it fully onto the market. And something that I've been really interested in is the evolution of embryo transfer and that artificial breeding and that sort of area. And I know I'm speaking to a room full of people who know more about it than I do, so I will not get too crazy about it. But I'm super excited by that area, and the idea that genomic selection was revolutionary in cutting the generation interval down from, like 5 to 8 years down to 3 to 5 years, that was huge. But being able to take an embryo from like a fetus and then use that to create a new animal is, to me, totally crazy. But I think the way that kind of dovetails into the artificial intelligence debate is we are getting faster and we're able to do way more interesting stuff super quickly. How do we do that in a way that's responsible? If the consequences can be really great, then how do we know where to go and do it in a way that just won't burn the whole place down? That's sort of what worries me and keeps me up at night.
Thank you. Great. So, to the audience, you have any question for the panelists? And I haven't seen any question from slide. Oh, okay, Steph. Hi, Thuy. What is the appetite for research in breeding resistant to specific diseases, difficult to manage currently, malaria, liver flu, facial eczema? You asking me? Or the panel? Anyone volunteer? Probably. Cheng?
Yep, I can speak while you guys are having a good think. Yeah, there is interest, Steph. There's lots of interest, especially with facial eczema, because as you know more than I do probably, as climate change is sweeping through the country, like facial eczema is popping up more and more and becoming more of an issue. And that's the same thing with a lot of these parasites, which are migrating south from those northern areas. So there is a huge amount of interest in this. It's always just about, the expense and how do we collect the phenotypes. Because once that we get the phenotypes, you get the high quality phenotypes paired to a really great pedigree with genomic selection on top of that, like you can do a lot with it. But collecting those phenotypes is the tricky bit. So yeah, lots of interest. And I'm pretty sure there are some really great genetic evaluation models out there at the moment. I just can't say what they are at the top of my head.
Yeah.
Can I give a quick response as well?
Yeah, go for it.
So I've done a lot of work on parasite infection and the breeding for resistance against parasite in sheep, not in dairy cows. But a lot of research happening right now, and I think, at least in sheep, I've seen we have breeding values for resistance, and so yes.
Thank you. You have any comment, Laura?
I don't really have anything to add because as a recent moving to Australia, I am not totally aware what all of these diseases are, so.
Understand. And data's still the key, Steph. Nick, is there anything we can do as individual companies and as an industry to help you at AgriBio more? How excellent.
Can I?
AgriBio, so two of you.
Yeah.
Fazel, go
I
first.
think, of course, we will soon need to move to the industry, like the commercial farms, to put up the sensors and measure methane. We really need help of farmers to help with us because it's not going to be directly measuring methane. We are going to take more samples, and that would be an excellent help. So if we can have that.
Great. Laura?
Yeah. I think it's kind of the elephant in the room whenever you're talking about research, but we always need more money. Sorry, it's just kind of, it's like, whenever you give more, it's like I can genotype more cows, I can collect more data. I think the other thing as the industry to do is, like, especially for groups like AgriBio or nonprofits like DataGene, we're not really a competitor with you. We're trying to add value to your product. And so I know everyone wants to keep their data sacred and protected, but like, I'm not asking to use your data to compete with you. I'm asking to use your data to hopefully add a value for every farmer in the industry. And so I think that kind of talks into like the data silos and what to do with it. But as we still have these really great industry-wide research groups and groups that are representing kind of the farmers and everyone, making that data sharing easier would be great.
Thank you. Where are you, Nick? Are you in the audience? There we go, Nick Brasher. So go and grab Nick later on, Dairy Bioscientist, if you need any more information. As AI evolves, are there particular innovations or improvements you're excited about in this field from Swati AI? So Cheng and Fazel, don't fight.
Oh my goodness. It's just everything's happening so quickly in this space. I feel like every week I wake up and there's some brand new thing that's come out that I need to learn how to do. And what really excites me is that they are so intuitive. So in my company, I've got this reputation as being an AI whisperer, and people come to ask me how to craft a particular prompt. And to me, I just feel like I talk to it like a person, which is kind of worrying. And I'm very polite to it too, just in case something happens. But I love how easy it is to use. I have this natural distaste for stuff where you need a whole manual and you need like training sessions and weeks of like courses to learn how to use something. It just feels really natural to the point where it's probably quite concerning for all of my family and friends. I really like the ability to shape the AI's memory, so be able to feed it information, specific information, and get a specific output that I need. I use it to like organize my wardrobe, so I have like all of my clothes in a CSV file and I feed it to it and it tells me what to wear every day. But things like that, but more obviously for more professional reasons, for corporate things. Yes. Anyway, Fazel?
Thank you. You answered perfectly.
Fazel, do you do that prompt? Arrange your outfit to go to work?
No, she said everything, yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
No. I feel I don't know much compared to
I don't know anything. I would like to have a copy of your prompt and the platform you use.
No problem.
With all the sensor information and milk yield output, do you think we will be able to rank our cows from the most profitable, efficient cow?
I think that's the end goal. Yeah, we should be able, and for example, in my own case, based on the sensors, methane sensors information, we can rank animals based on the highest and lowest methane emitters, and of course, it's related to how profitable and efficient are the cows.
I think, like short answer, yes, we can always rank things. But the interesting and difficult part of this question is, how do you define most profitable and most efficient? And if you look at the history of genetics and breeding and selection, it all started with just milk yield, and then we added fat yield, and we've added more and more traits. And as we added more complexity, we've developed different indices that kind of try to balance everything out. And I think that's kind of the challenge as an industry we have going forward, is what makes a cow profitable and efficient. And as with my research, I think the sensors open the door to measuring a lot more things that we're now going to have to take into consideration of how they fit into these indices and how they impact our selection and things.
Thank you very much, the panelists and the audience. So at DataGene, we review our breeding indices every 5 years. So Balanced Performance Index is our profit index. You will hear more about the 2025 review by Matt Schaefer and Tim Chalbert tomorrow. So that's where we rank cow based on profitability. With this session, well, guys, you apparently give us the front seat to the future of the dairy industry research. And from my perspective, heat tolerance is something close to my heart, so I'm excited to hear about Laura and how she used cutting-edge technologies that to improve their breeding value. So I can't wait to see that happening. Fazel, we talk about methane breeding value for a while now, and again, I can't wait to hear more from Christy and Andrew, Michael Aldrich tomorrow, and see how that's going to be turning into a breeding values for our industry. Wow, embryo transfer, that's exciting. And well, with genomic selection, we have already shortened the generation time significantly. That's where you can see the graph that Professor Jenny Price showed this morning, the sharp increase in the genetic trend. And together with embryo transfer, I can't envisage how that curve gonna be. It may go really exponentially. AI, as of artificial intelligence, collecting data, producing report that makes sense and readable about human and farmers, and I think that's a really important move. Last but not least, from my perspective, in fact, young people like you, the panelists here, embrace the opportunity and take on board the challenge to strike ahead. I think that's really lucky in our industry to have these young people not shy to try. As I said before, the dairy industry is at crossroads. But with the research like this, it's very clear that we have the resilience and the ingenuity to thrive. So let's keep the conversation going. Grab these brilliant minds at a coffee, because I know that I'm standing between you and the coffee here. We have 3 minutes. So please keep it going and put your hand together. Join me in thanking the panelists today, Laura, Fazel, and Cheng.